You want me to put that on my todger?
This one's wife, King Charles, must intervene. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. The New York Post runs with the story from Nika Shekhinazova, telling us King Charles needs to intervene over Family Guy spoof. This one's wife's ex-pal says. So who is this wading into the recent ridicule of this one's wife and Prince Harry, who's suggesting that King Charles needs to do something? Now, first of all, telling Charles that he ought to do something is never going to work. Why? Well, as a narcissist, he doesn't like to be told what he should or should not be doing. He can be advised, of course. It can be suggested that an opinion might be offered. But to tell him he needs to do something is immediately going to risk the fact of rejection, because the narcissism will interpret that as a threat to control. You're telling me what I should be doing. You're explaining that this is how I should be behaving. You're instructing me to do something. It doesn't matter whether the suggestion is entirely accurate and is driven by good intentions. It's how the narcissist perceives it. And therefore, telling him that he needs to intervene is something that is going to offend his need for control. But who is saying this, and why? King Charles needs to step in and put an end to the endless attention around the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. This one's wife's former friend said. Well, there may be many of you nodding, saying it would be a blessing, wouldn't it, if we were able to put an end to the endless attention. But of course, so long as people will click and read and watch, the journalists are going to write about it, the content creators are going to talk about it. TV presenter Lizzie Cundy, who struck up a friendship with the Duchess of Sussex in 2013, thinks the Sussexes need to end their moaning and whinging, and says they've built a career out of complaining. Well, this is hardly new news. We're well aware that they've done this. This one's wife has functioned in that way because she has such a high level of victimhood, which is enhanced by her narcissism. It causes her to believe that she is the victim and that people do things against her unfairly and unjustly, and that it's never her fault. Harry has a degree of victimhood born out of what he's experienced, but it's also harnessed and exacerbated by this one's wife. In order to control him, she needs him buying into the same kind of victimhood that she demonstrates. As I've explained before, she needs him to come into the awful shared fantasy, and she has succeeded in doing that. It wasn't too difficult, because there were elements of victimhood about Harry to begin with, and she simply has played upon that, her narcissism effortlessly and instinctively guiding her. Cundy continues by explaining, in light of the recent cartoons mocking this one's wife and Harry, King Charles needs to intervene and stop her memoirs. Cundy told the Memoir. Enough now of their moaning and whinging. All they do is backstab and make a career out of complaining. It is so bad now that we're a laughing stock across the pond, making cartoon features of the couple. It's time for this to stop, added Cundy, who no longer boasts a friendship with this one's wife. The Sussexes found themselves the butt of the joke in the latest Family Guy episode, in which their money-hungry ways were mercilessly mocked by the animated show. See parts passing for the impact that had upon her. This one's wife can forget a career in politics because, with their moaning, they become laughingstocks, not just here, but in the States, Cundy notes. Their celebrity friends have moved away from them. They've had to try and reinvent themselves, but they don't know how. They make money by slating our royal family. Cundy added that Charles needs to intervene to block any potential projects this one's wife may have in the works, such as a rumoured memoir. This one's wife, put the pen down. The royal family can't take it anymore, and the British public has had enough, Cundy told the Outlets, addressing her former pal directly. Well, it may well be correct that the British public have had enough of her moaning and whinging, and so has the royal family. But her protests and desire for her to put the pen down will fall on deaf ears. Similarly, in the way that you're not going to be able to make Charles do what you want, the same is to be said of this one's wife. Should it be the case that she happened to see what Lizzie Cundy is suggesting that she does, her narcissism will simply dismiss it. Who does she think she is to tell me what to do? She is a traitor. Remember, she ended the friendship with Lizzie Cundy and disengaged from her, which is relatively unusual for a narcissist to do so with a non-intimate secondary source. Having done that, she remains painted black, and therefore everything that Lizzie Cundy says is viewed through that lens. She is seen as a traitor. She is seen as a treacherous individual who has backstabbed this one's wife. Although the actual facts show that that's different, the reality warping that goes on because of the distortion field of this one's wife's narcissism results in her regarding Lizzie Cundy as the villain of the piece, and therefore she will not act upon the entreaties that are issued by Lizzie Cundy. The royals can't take another cartoon series of them being mocked, continued Cundy. Please, for once, put the pen down. King Charles, grow a backbone and tell her straight. The problem is that even if King Charles were moved to say to her, now, that's enough, you can forget all this memoir writing and having a go at us, it's just not on, do you hear me? She's not going to listen to him. Why? Because, first of all, the attempts that he may issue to assert control over her may not even reach her. She will rebuff them. If they were to, she's not going to do what he wants. She doesn't recognise that this is a requirement that's issued by her father-in-law and the King of England. She will just simply think, you're telling me what to do, and you can't. You were horrible to me, and this just shows that you're being horrible to me again. All of you over there were nasty to me, despite me being friendly to you. All of you were horrible to me. You kept telling me what to do, and you wouldn't let me do certain things when I was just trying to help. And so I did the right thing. I moved away from you, and lots of people have said I did do the right thing by moving away from you, and you still won't leave me alone. You're obsessed with me. Now you're telling me what I should and should not write. Just leave me alone. I want my privacy. That is fairly similar to how it would go in her world, that she regards the royal family as the problem, that they've mistreated her, that she is the victim, and that they won't leave her alone, and that they're obsessed with her. She can't see the fact that they rarely talk about her at all, after expert advice, and of course it's her that keeps going on about the royal family. But once again, that distortion field will cause her to see it in a different way. Notwithstanding what Lizzie Cundy suggests ought to be done, even if King Charles were moved to do it, it's going to fall on deaf ears. Let's take a quick dive below the line to see what people's observations are about this suggestion. Bluebuck Notes states, as an educator for decades, it makes me wonder whether they might have difficulty perceiving the outside world separate from themselves. That is correct. That's because of the distortion field that is this one's wife's narcissism and the grip that she has on her husband. They are the ones who want attention. By artificially creating superficial so-called tasks, they attempt to appear important. Obviously, this makes them look embarrassing, and the media makes fun of them. I am referring to this one's wife when I say they. He would live in a more private and respected life if he married someone who was confident and happy with herself. Indeed. I believe that this one's wife has a distorted perception of reality. Absolutely correct. That she can use other people's money, power and fame to climb to the top. Haslam. In hindsight, I think the royal family has handled the Markles brilliantly. Aside from the recollections may vary comment, which was brilliant, they've remained silent amongst all of the Markles' noise. They let the Markles completely destroy themselves and their brand, fully unassisted. Indeed. Expert advice tells them, give the narcissist enough rope. Watch my video of that name. The Markles wanted the freedom to be able to tell their story in their own way, and wow, what an epic failure. Their self-inflicted wounds are the stuff of legends. I don't think anything either Harry or this one's wife have to say at this point will damage the royal family one bit. The Markles have been fully discredited time after time again, and they're nothing more than a punchline now. Any further digs this one's wife might deliver in her book would be nothing more than comedic fodder for nearly everyone. And if she decides to avoid trashing the royal family in the book and simply writes about her pre-royal life as some have proposed, her audience will dwindle to almost nothing. No one cares about her life as a D-list actress, and that's the problem that she faces. Without the royal family, she is nothing and has nothing to offer. Unless, of course, she starts humming about being a yacht girl. Now that could be quite entertaining. I say bring it on. This one's wife, please write about how horrible it was in the royal family. Write about being a victim. The late night comedians could do with some new material. Chuck C. Charles has handled this perfectly. There is no better reality check than giving someone exactly what they asked for, especially these two. They are finding out that 99% of the world does not spend the day worrying about entitled rich kids who believe that fame and knowledge are somehow synonymous. Family Guy and South Park are America's version of reality check for them and many more. Biggie responds, Charles has not handled it perfectly. Perfectly means he would have removed their titles and then some. Mark Hugh, no, Charles III doesn't need to do anything and she wouldn't listen to him anyway, correct? If it meant not making another $5 to $15 million on a memoir. Furthermore, it would give her another reason to feel discriminated against by the royals because she is a woman and a person of colour, resulting in more accusations and feigned indignation. Some sensible, detailed comments there that have grasped the nub of the matter, and the fact is, Charles isn't going to intervene because the game plan that he has adopted so far, which is to assert control subconsciously by staying in a position of withdrawal and give her enough rope, has been playing out well. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.